Hello, welcome to FPL IQ, and today I am joined once again by Tien, FPL Planner, and Ryan, Football Chatbox. There is no Lucian, Teacher FPL. He's red flagged. I think he's having a bit of a party. It's like a holiday now they're going to start. I think it is now in Malaysia, is it? So he's off partying, maybe drowning his sorrows with how many flags we're all facing for this coming game week. But we're going to get on to that as our introduction. But first, I just want to say thank you for joining this video. We usually do streams. If you're here from a live stream and you're looking at a video and you want us to go back to live streams, or any kind of feedback would be really much appreciated. We take everything on board in terms of content. How we provide content and how we create content is influenced by the people in our community. So please let us know anything from now or throughout the show, your thoughts and feelings on what we do here at FPL IQ. So first question, gentlemen, is fun with flags. I had 5, and I've already got rid of one of them. But before we go on to specifics, what I've done, first, Tien, how are you doing, buddy? Have you had a good week so far?
Yeah, no, thanks. Very good. Pretty busy with work and life, but international break has been very peaceful and quiet in terms of FPL for me. I haven't really thought too much about FPL at all. So yeah, just trying to get my mind back into it. So hopefully this video will kick it off. But yeah, can't wait to open my app and see actually how many flags I've got.
It's fun. What a fun game this is. Ryan, how are you shaping up for this game week? You having a good week as well? And how's your FPL team looking?
Not too bad. Took a week off. And then this week it's just been basically content creation grind and basically flags. You know, you go into an international break and you hope that injuries won't happen, and sometimes you break the sacred FPL rule of doing an early transfer, where I transferred out a flag in Martinelli, who became unflagged, and bought in a flag who wasn't a flag at the time in Jared Bowen. But yeah, we'll talk about all of that and the reasons for doing that as well.
Yeah, I think if my casserole's on the ball, I think Bowen is the most transferred in player this game week so far.
Yes,
and he's not. It's the curse, isn't it? Every single week, it's either point chasing or some kind of injury woe. But just before we move on, because I think
he was, but
he's getting transferred out. Yeah, Palmer, and Mbeumo is going to be popular. Maybe even getting Saka and the like. But I just wanted to mention to Ryan, because I think this international break, just as me as a parent, was just a nice break. But for you, in terms of FPL, you said you felt like you kind of needed this FPL break because you were making, you felt poor decisions or rash transfers. Do you think a break, because people will watch, how to deal with FPL and difficult times during our season, did you step back from FPL like as much as you could, and do you think it actually benefited you?
So the reason I took a break was because I felt like I was like overthinking stuff. And sometimes you should keep FPL like pretty simple. There's no reason to overcomplicate stuff. End of the day, you watch what you're seeing and you kind of have to back your guts. But sometimes when you, I guess this is also probably like being a content creator is a double-edged sword, or even like consuming FPL content is a double-edged sword. You can get good stuff, but at the same time, you could also start to question your own thoughts, and then you could just overcomplicate stuff. So I just took 1 week off. I was like, I'm not going to watch any FPL content. So basically, I like avoided FPL content for the week. Came into this week, started creating and also consuming content. But I have tried to, let's see, we'll see if it works or not. I don't know. In terms of try and come with like a more fresh perspective, just listen it from a football point of view, like not too heavily influenced by decisions as well that everyone else is making. But I think it's good to take a break. If you feel overwhelmed, take a break, and then maybe you can get an idea of like, oh, why are you actually playing this game? Or what's the reason? Or maybe find your play style back again. Trust your gut. That's probably what I would say. Now, I don't know if it'll work. We'll see. In the next couple of weeks, I'll know.
Yeah, I think time's going to be the teller with that one, but just interesting to see from sort of the mental aspect of the game. I know, like you said yourself, you were overthinking it. I think we all have it, especially when you're making that one precious transfer and you're hovering over the button and you shake, you're like, oh, is he going to be worth it? Like, I know I even felt that myself this week, but when it's not going your way, it's even worse, isn't it? So let's move on with fun with flags then. I had 5. I think a lot of people will have had the similar players that I had. Cash, Bowen, Matoma, Haaland, Kabore were my 5 flags. But I have already made a move. Even if it was just going to be 1 week out, Matoma, I mentioned before, was one who was on my chopping block. I do have Pedro as my first sub with starting Archer at home to Bournemouth, which I know is not ideal, but it's one of those situations where I'm not too sure a -4 is worth it. So Matoma's already gone for me to my enemy of the season so far, the most overrated player in FPL. I could have gone to Saka. Like, I might even still do Bowen to Saka for a -4. Just don't feel the Arsenal attack. I've been pretty much against the Arsenal attack for a long time, even since, what was it, game week 2 when they had no big chances against Nottingham Forest. And I just went for Mbeumo because he's your 90-minute talisman on penalties. But I was considering this from next game week anyway, when Brentford's fixtures turn. And it just kind of came back to what Lucian has said to me before when I considered Mitoma before I brought him in weeks ago. There's no point in me bringing someone in and then bringing Mbeumo in 1 or 2 weeks anyway. I might as well just use that one transfer to just 1 week early at home to Arsenal. Despite all the stats for Arsenal, they're a team that I feel that can concede. And even against Liverpool, how good Liverpool did, was it 3-0, right? Liverpool-Brentford. Mbeumo was still getting chances. And if you can do that away to Anfield, I think he can do it at home to Arsenal as well. So that's been my move. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. There could still be a -4 on the cards, but not until press conferences. I don't think taking a transfer early, fair enough, if the funds are going to be tight, but take a -4 before press conferences, and then it turns out like Bowen's fluid on the knee, which is very sort of general, because we all have fluid on the knee. And then you find out he's playing away to Burnley, and you've taken him out for a -4, you're really going to kick yourself. If you're going to take a hit, you might as well get all the news in before you take that hit. So, yeah, that's what I did anyway. I've removed one of my flags who looks certain to be out. And he was on iffy grounds for me anyway, to be honest, despite... I really wanted Mitoma and Estepinian, but now Estepinian's still out and it could be longer term. And with all the rotation and Brighton looking a bit hit and miss, I think Mbeumo long term now is the way to go. So that's what I've done anyway. Tien, how many flags did or do you have?
Yeah, so I just opened the app and I think I've got 4. So the same 4 as you. I don't have Kabore. So yeah, Cash, Mitoma, Bowen, and Haaland. I have 1 free transfer. And yeah, I was already thinking of the same as you. Like Mitoma to Mbeumo was already on the card even before the injury news. I was like, that was a transfer that I could even make this week. Ahead 1 week earlier as well. So now with the injury, it looks like it's a no-brainer. And I haven't really listened to a lot of content, but it's probably not hard to guess that it's going to be the number 1 recommended transfer by everyone. So that would probably be the one move. Now, I'm open to taking a hit as well, depending on what the other injuries look like. So I think Cash, regardless of whether he plays or not, I think I'll just leave him there for now, because I don't think it's ever worth a hit to do a defender transfer. I've got Braithwaite from Everton that can come in to play. It's no problem. Bowen is interesting one. I think depending on the severity of his injury, if he's potentially fit to play, then of course I don't need to transfer. But even if the injury is not bad, that he's only out for 1 game week, I will probably be tempted to just keep him as well. So my hit could be a spicy Archer to Solanke or something, where I could play like a 3-4-3 instead for this week. But I don't really need to make that move. I mean, I could easily just play Archer at home to Bournemouth if Bowen is out for 1 week. So that will be something that I'll have to think a bit more about.
That's literally on my cards too for Pedro, because Pedro's my first sub, and I just need Archer for this week because he's at home to Bournemouth, and then I need a partner for Haaland. I think Solanke for the next like 5 games is just a 90-minute set and forget, right? Like for his price, he's going to take a long.
We're going to talk about him a bit more later.
Well, yeah, there you go. But mine would be the same situation. That I'll play 3-4-3 this week with Bowen on my bench if he's out. But if he is going to be out longer term, if he's out 3 weeks or something, then Bowen is just going to be a sell. But I am tempted by something like that. Is literally my choice is Bowen to Saka or Pedro to Solanke. Ryan, how many flags are you looking at?
So I started the week with a flag on Martinelli, and then it went into like Haaland getting flagged as well. I took Martinelli off and bought him Bowen. Like as soon as like the game was done, I was like, I've seen enough of Arsenal. I was just tired of. I'm like, this is not going to work. So I just made I just fixed my mistake that I did basically when I initially bought in Martinelli. Now, obviously, Bowen has gone and got injured, or we don't know how it is. He might even be fit for the game. If he's out for 1 game, I will just bench him and maybe start a Tsimikas or Lascelles. Newcastle in general at home are a bit more better defensively, so I don't mind it. I've also got Cash and Haaland, so 3 flags in total. Cash, I've seen some news about he should be fine, and I'm expecting Haaland also should be all right by the end of it. So it's only Bowen that I'm slightly worried about. So if he's out for 1 game, then start one of the defenders. I have Osula. Unfortunately, he's not going to get any minutes from Sheffield United. Now I had Mitoma. I've sold him. Done the same thing as you. Bought Mbeumo. That's also because like going a week early, like that was anyway going to be the move. And Brighton have been disappointing. And we're going into a fixture crunch where there's going to be about 3 game weeks in 7 days. And you would want players who are going to be 90-minute players. And this is where you go, okay, I want the talisman of like certain teams who are not going to rotate. Mbeumo is just not going to get dropped. So he's another player that I was like, okay, let's just do the move early. The reason I did the Bowen move was I wanted Bowen and I wanted Mbeumo. And if I had waited for Bowen, like when his price rose, I would have been priced out of getting one of them, which is why I moved early. So yeah, that's the main reason for moving early, but that's the only reason. But let's see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, as badly organized and as bad as a content creator as I'm going to sound, those 3 game weeks are literally next week.
Yep.
It's so this Saturday, Sunday is like the 25th, 26th of November. It is literally the following week. Like the Saturday, then the midweek, then the Saturday. It literally starts next week. So that's, again, another reason why if Bowen's going to be out and a little bit iffy this game week, what are the chances that Bowen's going to come back and play Sunday, Thursday, Sunday?
Depends on the extent of his injury, I guess. Yeah. That's the thing. We have to wait and see.
Yeah, wait for press conferences. But I'm just thinking, like, a team like Brentford or Bournemouth, who are just playing those games and like that's it, they're probably going to just play those players. So I think now is a time to just be when you're making those transfer decisions to just also really factor in now how many of those games or minutes do you think your player's going to get. For me, there's no point in going to Bowen to Phil Foden, because if City rotate as it is, like what they're going to do during 3 games in a week, right? So definitely we'll start to really factor in that over the Christmas period, because there's 2 chunks of game weeks where we have like 3 games in a week, and we really need to think about that as well. So let's move on to our 4 game week player picks. So our 4 game week player pick review. So every week we choose a player that we recommend and actually quite often bring in ourselves for the next 4 game weeks, because we don't believe in just saying the popular pick every week, because you'd just be choosing probably someone who's playing against Burnley or Bournemouth away. Bournemouth being away or something like that. So we'd go for 4 game weeks. And the review, starting with me, because I was the defender, and I brought him in myself. It was pain and pleasure with this man. It is Tsimikas of Liverpool. 6 points, 6 points, 1 point, 15 points. It's not going to take a genius to figure out which one I benched him for. But look, I thought he was benched. He didn't have. He was benched in game week 11 against Luton and came on for 23 minutes. He was hooked off midweek in the European fixture, and I thought that was it. He wasn't going to play. I brought in Lascelles to double up the Newcastle defence against Bournemouth. So that literally cost me all 15 points because Lascelles got 0. But I brought him in at 4.4 million because Robertson was ruled out. I had the transfer, needed a player. I thought even if he plays for Liverpool, who aren't amazing defensively, but he'll get down that left side. And he got me 2 clean sheets in the first 2 games. So he was never going to be a really long-term pick. It's still just until like Robertson comes back, but that's quite a lot of game weeks now, especially with the Christmas period crunch coming up. So yeah, he dropped against Luton, comes on, gets 15 points with a clean sheet, double assists, and 3 bonus points, which were nestled on my bench. But either way, I stand by the call. I know it's not just the points. I would have taken 2 out of 4 clean sheets and he only played 3 of the 4 games as it is. It was a risky pick, similar to when people chose Livramento over Lascelles. But yeah, I think it was a good pick, but I'm going to be biased. So we usually rate these on a green for yes, orange for iffy points, and a red for no. It was a bad pick. Thoughts, guys? Are we going green? Any arguments against?
Nah, I'll probably go green because at the time this pick was made, even I was about him at that time, Liverpool really weren't looking like keeping clean sheets. And the fact that he gave that clean sheet on the first game itself, I'm like, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And then back-to-back consecutive clean sheets, you're like, yeah, okay, cool. Now, obviously, he got benched, which was sad, and that made us all think that he was not going to start the next game as well. And we benched 15 pointers, including myself. I benched him as well. So
and I know it's hindsight, and we try not to focus on hindsight, but the thing is, can you hear that noise? By the way, the music. All right. I don't think the recording can, but I will stop it in a moment. So she's playing a fishing game over here. But I know it's in hindsight, but I did see a comment saying like, well, Gomez has just done 3 back-to-back like 90s, so he was like never going to play against Brentford. Like if I would have saw like the Liverpool forums and the Liverpool fans before the Brentford game saying, oh yeah, it's not, we know he's done badly, but Tsimikas is like surely going to play. There's no one else going to play. Then yeah, that would have been what I would have played him, but we can't play ifs and buts. It's a green. Tien, is it a green whilst I go and turn this fish game off?
Yeah, no, I think it's a solid green. You know, it was an opportunity that everyone, you know, who brought him in, I think it was a fair call. And yeah, it's, you know, if you got the 15 points, great. If you didn't have the 15 points, well, it doesn't make him a bad pick at all. He was still a very solid pick. So yeah, solid green.
Okay, I'll do Lucian's. He was a midfielder. He went for Erdegaard, 2-0-0-0. A fitter Bukayo Saka would have usually made the nod here, and Saka got 5-6-2-5. Chief incentive for him is the 2 plum fixtures in the next 4. Arsenal won 5-0 and 3-1. Erdegaard. But we've had a bit of an issue with picking a player and them getting injured in like the first game. I know it's happened to you, Ryan. Has it happened to you as well, Tien? Do you have it with Wilson or Isaac or something?
No injury, but parents was kidnapped. So
yeah. Oh, Wilson. That was who picked Wilson? Was it you picked Wilson or was it Lucian again?
I picked Wilson as well.
Okay,
I picked Wilson with the injury as well. Yeah, so that's true. So I got 2 instances where the factors outside of my control.
Quite frankly, you should have done your research.
Yeah,
it's on the cards, I guess. But Ryan, I think you were Shah in the first game.
No,
Botman, that was it. Botman,
Yeah.
you got all those points in like the first game, and then it was injured, and he's been injured since, right?
I was like warming my hands. I was like, oh, I finally picked a good pick, and then bam,
Yep.
gone.
And if you spread out his points over the 4, it looks okay after that,
Yeah.
but it happens. So we've been a bit unlucky where it's not even been like the 3rd or 4th game they've got injured. It's like the first game, and then they've not played since. So that's been one of our issues. He says the Chelsea-Newcastle fixtures are what pushed him towards Ødegaard rather than Martinelli. In extremely difficult games like Man City, Ødegaard helped determine Arsenal's areas of dominance. Predicting Arsenal in tough games after the City performance was the big call, and that failed as Arsenal attack is truly dysfunctional, strong words here from Lucian, when it comes to executing complex patterns of play. Again, you took out Martinelli, Ryan. I could bring in Saka. He looks like such an obvious choice. He's like 50% owned, and I'm still and ahhing over the Arsenal attack. I think this is just a red pick. None of us would have suggested Ødegaard, right? Injury or not?
No, probably not. Like, given how Arsenal were playing. But then again, do we apply as a red pick, or do we apply like what we did for Botman in terms of...
Because he was injured, it's a yellow pick.
I don't know.
Because I just think even
then,
if you played...
Arsenal have been poor.
Yeah. It's on the line. It's on the line. It was. It goes for both picks, so I like it. But we'll move on to Tien. Tien, your guy was Watkins. Talk us through Watkins.
Yeah, so Watkins was my game week 9 pick. So he got 11, 2, 2, and 6. So I picked him for the 4 fixtures. So West Ham at home, Luton is at home, Nottingham Forest away, and Fulham at home. So very, very good 4 fixture. 3 at home as well, where Villa used to normally have much better attacking and defensive data as well. So I did say that he got great underlying stats, is a talisman of a good attacking team, especially at home. So the outcomes were West Ham at home, he got 1 goal and 1 assist out of 0.64 XGI. And then he went on to Luton at home with nothing, 1.4 XGI. And then Forest away, nothing again, 0.37 XGI. And then finally Fulham at home, 1 goal, 1.99 XGI. And remember that chance, that big chance that he missed. Oh my god! And I captained him as well. So pain. But so in terms of the outcome, I did say that I predicted 4 returns in 4. He only got 3 returns, but he missed 5 of his 6 big chances.
and that's just Watkins, isn't it? Like that's always been
yeah.
him.
So it's like, it's like, well, we could have seen the signs, right, with him. But yeah, an XG delta of minus 1.42. So you could argue that he should have got at least 1 or 2 more goals.
Even that Luton game. The Luton game where Matty Cash is potential assist.
That exactly that. Like, he's like Cash owner, Watkins owner. Like, you see that big chance that he created, and then it's that just went wide. Was that straight to the keeper? I can't remember.
Yeah, straight to the keeper. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I think what I said was the reason for the pick was the home, like the strong home form. Like all the home underlying data were there to support that. Unlucky or you could argue that you should have seen the sign that Watkins is always going to miss big chances. I don't know. Like, I think if you ask me to go back and decide whether I would pick him again, I think I would still. So
it's a green pick.
It's still a good pick.
Yeah, it's a green pick. Like we've been in a situation, and I think it might have been the week after where, like, a lot of the time, like I think it was Ryan that said it the week after or the week before, and we're just like, forwards, who can you pick? Like, it was at this time 4 weeks ago, and then you got to go 4 weeks prior to that because we're basing it off the knowledge before 4 weeks ago. So we picked 4 weeks ago, but the knowledge has come from like prior to before those 4 weeks, right? And there's Haaland, what at that time, Haaland, Watkins, Wilson, Isaac,
Alvarez.
and Alva. That's why a lot of our forward picks so far this season have overlapped more than any other position that we've picked, because there's just no one. Like, I know it could change today, but just prior, like the first sort of 10 game weeks, it was like 4 forwards, and that was it. So, Ryan, green pick.
I still think it's a green pick because you can still keep him, right? He's still, again, if you go to all this like 90-minute men talk conversation, he's one of those players that you could have. And if you manage to keep him until game week 18, you have that Sheffield United fixture. Although I don't know if I want to go through captaining him again, but we'll see.
You could captain him this week.
No.
Could. All right, and finally, we have Højlund. This was a wildcard pick. We do go a little bit spicier on the wildcard picks. I know.
Yeah, when I made the wildcard pick, I was like, this is the definition of a wildcard. Absolutely like a wildcard. It was, and to be honest, okay, I'll straight away say it was an absolute failure. 2-2-2. He just got appearance points. At least he got appearance points. I'll take it. But the last game, he should have got a goal and an assist in the last game. He had an XG of 1.08. One was right in front of the goal. And then an assist that was set up for Garnacho, I think. Pretty good chance to finish, and he messed it up as well. But apart from that, the other games, Sheffield, nothing. Fulham, nothing. And then obviously got spanked at City. So, yeah, disappointing. He's kind of been disappointing. But overall team has also been disappointing and letting him down.
Yeah, you two are Manchester United fans, and we even said, probably even before the start of the season, we've said before how the defense got you guys in the Champions League, and attacking wise, apart from Bruno, they're just poor. They're just not looking good, but it might change.
Funnily enough, he's doing it in the Champions League, but just not in the Premier League.
All right, so let's move on to our new 4-game week player picks. The new 4-game week player picks. So starting with me again because it's the defender. And I have actually gone for Joachim Andersen. He's my early season hero. Actually, 2 of these players I started the season with that are on the screen right now because Etse is going to be talked about as well. I've gone for Andersen. I've put in our notes here that I've thought about this, and this was probably the most difficult pick I've had so far this season. I don't think any defense looks likely to keep 4 clean sheets, and I think most teams are going to be lucky if they even get close to 3 clean sheets. It feels like every team has at least one tough fixture over the next 4, and the fact that we're having so many game weeks close together in the next 4, I think it's easier to have tired legs because defenders don't get rotated around as much, and I just feel like there's more goals over the Christmas period. You know, every single year on Boxing Day, they put the 1950 whatever boxing match results from the top division that year. I would have gone for Estepinian, like I mentioned earlier, if he would have been fit at this time, because he was the one I was looking myself to bring in to partner Mitoma. Both of them are out injured. And Brighton in general are riddled with injuries, so I'm not going to touch any of the other defenders. And the only ones near the top of the fixture ticker are like Bournemouth, Burnley, teams like that. And I'm not going to choose one of their defenders because I don't think it's realistic. I'm not going to sit here and suggest to bring in a Burnley defender for the next 4 because I don't see him keeping clean sheets as well. So he's my early season hero from my game week 1 bench boost. And I think Palace are always just solid defensively. I'm hoping for 2 clean sheets in the next 4 because they've got Luton away, West Ham away, Bournemouth at home, and Liverpool at home. So again, I know that Liverpool fixture is one that I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet in, even though they're at home. They just play well. Roy lets them play how they play. They defend well. The attack could be better, but I'm picking a defender, and I think they're as solid as pretty much you can get for that kind of price range as well. So I'm aiming for 2 clean sheets out of 4, but I won't be surprised if no Premier League team gets more than 2 clean sheets in the next 4 game weeks. So there you go. I'm going for Anderson. Lucian has gone for Eze. Again, someone who I started the season with. He was the second player. I was Triple Palace at the start of the season. I was wax lyrical about this young man, but he lost his partner in crime, Elise, because they were the threat for the Palace attack at the start of the season. Elise was injured, but Eze was still doing good numbers. I held him all the way from 6.5 million to 6.1 million or something like that until I just had to get rid. But he's back, and a lot of people even more looking at him now with the fact that Mitoma and Bowen look set to be out, and a lot of people already had Brian Mbeumo, so they've been looking at the likes of Eze to bring in, and Lucian has gone there. He said that the next 3 to 4 fixtures are good. Which I just said because it's Luton, West Ham, Burnley, Liverpool, and difficult games are at home, including an easier Bournemouth game. So yeah, he's gone with Eze because he plays Luton and Bournemouth specifically in the next 3. He doesn't see Liverpool as very good defensively as well, and it is at Palace. Only Everton, Fulham, Sheffield United and Spurs have 3 home games in the next 4. Doucouré and Brennan Johnson were prime picks based on this, but their opponents are tough, so he feels less threatened by that concept. He expects penalties, 2 in the next 4 games, so he's been very specific with what he's looking for. But personally, I think Eze is a great pick. I started the season with him. They've got 3 of the next 4 fixtures are probably the best on paper. I just don't trust that Palace attack. But with Eze and Elise both back, and with Eze on penalties, and I think he's still 6.1 million, I don't think he's that bad. So we go to forward. I've already hinted at this man up top. He's not on the picture because I didn't have Tien's pick in time when I made the PowerPoint. But Tien, tell us, who is your forward pick for the next 4 game weeks?
Yes, so we have mentioned him earlier in the video. So it's going to be the big Dominic Solanke. So not the best fixtures, but decent fixtures. So Sheffield United this week, and then Villa at home, Palace away, and Man United away. But then he got the following 3 fixtures after that are very good as well. So obviously, we only pick him for the 4 weeks, but his fixture run extend after that with Luton, Nottingham Forest, and Fulham to follow as well. So obviously, amongst them, Sheffield United is the worst defense in the league at the moment. Villa is a strong suspect defensively away from home, and Palace and United are kind of sort of mid-table teams in terms of defensively. So what I really like about Solanke is he's a clear talisman for Bournemouth. So I think he scored 55% of the goals that the teams has scored, and 39% of the team XG as well. He pretty much played almost every minute. He's actually ranked 5th at the moment in terms of XG amongst all the forwards. So I'm hoping for, or aiming for, 2 to 3 attacking returns over the next 4. And I think the final point is what you've already mentioned just earlier, Rob. The alternative options are really, really lacking at the moment. You either have teams with bad fixtures or bad teams, or players get injured. So it's just like there's, outside of Haaland, there's Watkins maybe, obviously, but the fixtures are not that great anyway, at least in the next 4. So yeah, there's just not too many to pick from.
Yep. And Ryan, back on the wildcard pick. By the way, yes. I did just put Solanke's picture just superimposed on, just for you, Tien. Ryan, wildcard. Are you going crazy? Are you going spicy?
Yes, spicy. But before this thing, I just want to mention, it's funny, we say there's no forwards picks, because I remember 4 weeks before this, I had picked Solanke as well, and now we've gone through a whole cycle. We're going back to Solanke because there's no one to go for. But my spicy pick is the post boy, Mbeumo. And yeah, he has Arsenal next. But then my next pick after this show will be a defensive pick, so I can't really pick him. And by the time I get to picking him again, he has a blank in the next four as well. So I've gone for Mbeumo. They've got 3 good fixtures after this, and again, we mentioned it at the start. Everyone's looking to do this move anyway next week, so might as well just bring it a week early, anyways. And if you can get like 2 returns in the next 4, I'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, solid. I mean, we spoke about him already, and he's a sensible pick. He's the Brentford talisman. So let's go on to the matchups and questions about the teams involved. Well, first up, we've got Spurs against Aston Villa. So these are 2 popular teams in FPL. A lot of people sold Maddison because obviously he's injured. People are still keeping their eye on Son a little bit to see how he's coping without Maddison. And Villa, excuse me, feels like a lot of people are at least doubled up on Aston Villa with cash plus Diaby and or Watkins. That's the feeling I get from the general community. But we are going to be looking specifically at potential plans to offload Aston Villa in the next few fixtures, given that fixture swing change for them to go from green fixtures to red. Or actually, is it too late to jump on Villa, or even start to bring them in and still be doubled and tripled up on them? And Spurs without Maddison is sellable. As always, start with Lucian's notes for this one. The Spurs without Maddison has become extremely reliant on the flanks. Son is a sell for him for that purpose, but the fullbacks and the wingers are a strong hold. So he suggests the likes of keeping someone like Porro. Biggest problem watching Spurs is their failure to dominate the ball. Despite what Big Ange says, they're likely to react to the unpredictable nature of Villa's flexible tactics. Highly rating Villa here because the first time I'd admit I don't know what Villa will do. They used Tielemans as a clever left midfielder that caught Fulham cold, and it solved the Bailey Zaniolo conundrum. I've butchered his name, I'm sorry. Perhaps they'll keep this tactic since it brings wings, but it means that Watkins and Diaby will have the glut of chances produced. Both are a firm hold. Cash output likely reduced for this, and I fully expect a cash exodus for Arsenal defence or Reece James after this. All fair points, I think, from Lucian, and I don't think I'm too far from him on this. For my part of this, I've no plans to drop Diaby at the moment, who I've had since game week 2 when I brought him in for Bruno Fernandes. Despite City and Arsenal coming up in game week 15 and 16, they're at home, where we've talked before. I think it was the last video and stream we did, or the one before that, where Villa at home are absolutely ridiculous, no matter who they're against. And I'll still always see potential for goals from the likes of Diaby and Watkins. So I only have Diaby, I don't have Watkins. I still think both of them are a hold. I even still think Cash is a hold, because where are you going to go? I know Lucy's given an idea about Arsenal defender or maybe Reece James at Chelsea. I think that's fine. But right now, is that the move that you need to make this moment? Probably not. But again, that's just my opinion. Villa also had the second most amount of goals with 29. So why would I move from the second best scoring team in the league, and where would I realistically go to? Especially with even more injuries around right now. Like, why would I get rid of Diaby? And where am I going to go to? Because alternatives are injured. I don't think it's too late to get an Aston Villa. Maybe even a Matoma to Diaby move if the former is out, because surrounding that City-Arsenal game, there's still got Bournemouth, Brentford, Sheffield United, Man United and Burnley, all of which I think are scoreable games for Aston Villa. So what are your guys' thoughts? Specifically, let's focus on Aston Villa first. So before we go on to Son and Maddison. Tien, what are your thoughts on Aston Villa players?
Yeah, so I think I agree with what you're saying, and I think Lucian as well. So currently I've got triple up Villa. So Cash, Diaby, and Watkins. So I think the last show I did mention that, you know, if anyone was to go first, it would be Diaby. But obviously, you know, that was before all of these new flags that, you know, start popping up everywhere. So I think for that reasons, I I will be holding on to both of them. So Watkins and Diaby, and I think Cash the same as well as what he just said. Even if he's doesn't play, I've got cover in the bench that can come on for him. And even if I hold him for the tough fixtures, I can just easily bench him because I still keep one eye on the Blank game week 18, right? So if you can just keep those players through the few tough fixtures, then you are in a very good position come the Blank game week 18. So I mentioned about Solanke at the start, right? I think he can be a very good way for me to bring someone in for Archer, obviously stronger than Archer, who can start and rotate with, let's say, a Diaby. If I don't want to play Diaby for Man City or Arsenal, I can just easily bench him and play 3-4-3, right? And then come 18, I have a very, very solid 11 that I can start. So I think for those reasons, and the fact that I've got other problems in the team with all the flags and stuff, I think I'll be holding all three throughout this period.
Yeah, we know wildcard to play. I think there's other things to do. They're not an instance. They're still playing well, especially at home. Why bother? So Ryan, your thoughts on Villa assets?
So I've got Watkins and Cash. And we mentioned before about the game week 18 fixture where it could be good for them. I do agree with the home fixtures that you mentioned. They do well. Now Cash defensively, I don't know if they probably won't keep clean sheets during that specific time. So you might want to look at like benching him if you could. And like you mentioned, if you sell him, where do you exactly go at the present moment? Like Lucian has mentioned Arsenal defender, but a lot of us already have one Arsenal defense. Do you want to double up on Arsenal defense? There is Reece James, but do you really need to go this week? Can you just wait until 16? There is no one really else. And I think this you mentioned, Rob, a couple of weeks ago, that Matty Cash is generally good attacking in away games with his numbers. So this being an away game could actually help him as well. So we'll see. Now, will they keep a clean sheet? Probably not. But I won't be surprised if it does get an assist at least from this game.
Yeah, and even when I did my defender pick, because I did a lot more defensive research this week for my player pick, I'm looking at defenses, and I don't think anyone's getting more than 2 clean sheets in the next 4. So what are you going to do with Cash? Because I think Cash could get 2 clean sheets in the next 4. Maybe 1, just Bournemouth away, but yeah. Or he's benchable, Yeah.
If anything, he has high upside always because of his attacking threat.
Yep, because he gets down that right side, right?
Yep.
So I think it's fine. In terms of Son, so Lucian, I already read his part out about how he feels like he could be a sell. I just think it's a tough one. Again, so caveat, we've already discussed that there's no one really else to go to, especially not someone who's playing for one of the most attacking sides in the Premier League. And Son is just a player that can be quiet. He's played up front. Is a striker as the main attacking outlet for Spurs, and Son can be quiet for 89 minutes and then do an absolute perler from 0.1 xg from wherever and score, right? So even though in large spells in recent games he's been invisible, he just always has that ability to have a moment of brilliance. But I do feel without Maddison it does affect Son, and if Maddison is out, and he's out for a lot of game weeks because time-wise it's not as long, but the fact that they've got so many games over Christmas, that's so many game weeks in FPL, I think if you don't have so many flags and you had a plan on maybe even changing a formation and having 3 expensive strike, let's say you fancy Gabriel Jesus as the Arsenal attacker when he's back fit and you want to go Gabriel Jesus and Watkins and Haaland up front and maybe change formation, I could understand it. I think Son for me is in the firm don't buy, don't sell camp. I think he is sellable, but I don't know anyone who you'd go to, and I don't know anyone who doesn't have a problem to deal with, basically. And I just think I personally am biased because I really like Son as a player. And I've had him in for quite a while, and I won't sell him because I've got other things to do. But if I didn't have him, I would not, even with all the injuries and stuff now, I would not be bringing Son into my side. Definitely not without Maddison. And even though the next 4 are difficult, after that, they're not too bad. So then you could be potentially just getting him back in 4 game weeks, and then you're in that situation where are you going to really use 2 transfers on 1 player for 4 game weeks? Like, what's the point? There's just no point. So, yeah. Tien, thoughts on Son without Maddison?
Yeah, so I mean, it was 1 game, right? That he played without Maddison, and obviously, it impacted him. But it's 1 game. It's small sample size is what we normally refer to. I don't have him. I've never had him. But if I did, I think I would agree with you. I wouldn't sell him this week. Mainly for the fact that most people have much bigger fires to deal with. And then you just want to see 1 more game week of Spurs without Maddison to see how they set up and how they play. And if you are really feeling strongly about selling Son, then of course you can sell him next week because they play Man City, right?
Yeah. But then you just is that the kind of game where he just gets behind a high line, right?
I mean, you could pen the narrative any way you like, but a game away, is that away?
Yeah, at Man City, yeah.
Yeah, so away to Man City is the toughest game for any team. So so if someone sell him next week, and the fact that I think a lot of people still don't have Saka, right? Whether you sell him this week for Saka when Saka is away in Brentford might not be the best fixture for him. But then next week Saka is playing at home, so it's a much better sort of like more sensible transfer to do. So I think just no buy, no sell for Son.
Yeah, Saka's 50.8% owned. I don't have Saka. I got rid of him. I think it was on my wild card. But again, coming back to what we mentioned earlier, like if you're going to bring in Saka, remember it's 3 game weeks plus Europe plus the fact he's off the back of an injury. So it's all well and good saying, I'm bringing Saka in next game week because he's got Wolves and then Luton and then Villa, Brighton, Liverpool. If there's going to be a rest for Saka, it's going to be against Luton. Because they need him for Aston Villa away. Brighton at home, I don't think you're not going to rest him for Liverpool. So in the next 6 or 7 fixtures, when I know Arteta runs Saka into the ground. He'll play him no matter what. But
he doesn't rest him.
He doesn't. But that's why he gets injured. So even if he doesn't rest him, what's to stop another injury coming up if he's not had a proper rest? But just my opinion, if he's got Saturday against Wolves and Tuesday, it's Saturday, Tuesday as well. But for Arsenal, it's Wolves and then Luton Saturday, Tuesday, and then it's the weekend again. So you'd probably if I wasn't doing an Arteta and running Saka into the ground, I would just play him with those 7 days and do Wolves and Villa, and hope that I can play someone else against Luton, albeit away. But there you go. Arteta doesn't do that. He just absolutely just flogs Saka until he gets injured, and there you go. That's what happens. Son thoughts, Ryan?
So I did say last show we did that Spurs with their defensive injuries could impact their attack as well. Now it has been only 1 game, and I still kind of think it will impact their attack. Having said that, I think before all of this injury chaos and whatnot, Son was probably going to be the best captaincy option for this week. And I still think he's a decent captaincy option for this week. So I wouldn't go selling someone who is a decent captaincy option for this week. Maybe next week we can think about it. But I feel like at least for this week, Villa are another team who will play a high line. And Spurs are a team that can do well with that. So I would keep him for this week, and he's had a really good international break. Whatever you take from that, he's been scoring goals, so maybe that also helps.
Yeah. So we'll go into the game specifics then. As for the match itself, pretty much what you've just started the ball rolling there, Ryan, because I think there's going to be goals in this game. You've got Villa, who are just ridiculous away from home. Like, they are ridiculous at home, and they're ridiculous away from home. Like, it's just both sides. Like we've said before, they're just like two different teams. I made a joke, like, I don't know if they just miss their beds or their blankies at home or whatever it is, because when they're away, they're useless. But both play pretty high lines, both like to get lots of goals. I think with the Spurs high line and the Spurs injuries, I think this game is ripe for Diaby and Watkins. Like, if this was a home game for Villa, they would be in the captaincy discussion more than they already are with the injuries and the high line that they play, right? And the fact that Villa, I said before, second most amount of goals, and it comes a lot of the time from those two being involved. It's just odd that they're so different, and I don't know if Lucien touched on it with the tactics that they're going to do. I don't know if they play completely different at home to away. I don't know if it's the fans. I don't know what it is, but they're so different. But I still think that Villa can exploit that high line and the injuries that they've got there, and I just still think that Spurs have always got a chance to score because of the way Big Ange plays football. It's his attack. He goes on the front foot, right? I see McGinn causing issues with box-to-box. I was going to tweet as well saying before McGinn scored that I think he's been absolutely key for Villa this season with those box-to-box runs, and he seems to be all over the park, and I felt goals were coming, and then he scored. So I didn't want to tweet it because then I didn't want to like a hindsight merchant, so I didn't bother. But McGinn will cause chaos with those box-to-box runs, and it's going to be the same on the other side. I think with Sarr and potentially Basuma doing their own box-to-box runs, which is going to be dangerous, and with that constant high press as well that they have. But the lack of creativity without Maddison leaves Son isolated at times. So I think it's going to take those box-to-box runs to make the connection with Son. So Sarr sprinting forward, getting the ball and playing it with Son and Kulusevski, and Brennan Johnson probably on the other wing. So for me, the key matchup in this game is Kulusevski against Luca Dean. I think if Kulu can get through Dean on that side, Spurs will have some joy. And Porro's down that side as well. So I think Porro, Kulu are going to be the key to link up with Son, and Sarr making the box-to-box runs as well. So I think it's going to be close, but I think there's going to be goals, and I'm going to go for 2-2. I think I've got 2 draws in the 2 games today. But yeah, Tien, your predictions or thoughts on the overall game and player team matchups?
Yeah, so I don't think there's too much more to add from what he just said. But yeah, I think well, I hope that you're right, because Spurs with our is Romero back yet? No, I don't think so. Right? Is he still suspended? So yeah, it's
2 more games.
Yeah, it's
and Van der Ven still flagged. The dog is still flagged.
So it's obviously the makeshift centre back without the speed and the ability to go back and recover from the high line. And so good to see the Diaby and Watkins making plenty of run behind. So I really hope that being the owners of those two, they do some good. And I think I listened to Planet FPL James. He's a big Spurs fan, and he strongly suggests to anyone owning Aston Villa assets like Watkins and Diaby to keep and play them against Spurs. So if he said so, then I don't have any reason to doubt that would be the sensible play. So yeah, in terms of prediction, I wouldn't predict a draw. I would say that's a tough one, actually. That's 3-2 to Villa. How's that?
We're at edge of our seats there, but we're going for a 3-2. Ryan, your thoughts on player and team matchup predictions?
Expect goals, but I don't know how many levels are like goals, because Villa have been poor away in terms of scoring goals, and we've spoken about Spurs and their lack of defense and how that impacts attack. So are we really expecting multiple goals is what I'm not really sure about. So I think if I was to predict, I would play the players you have, like your Aston Villa attackers, your Spurs attackers. I would play all of them because both sides can score. I'm thinking probably 2-1 to Villa, but then will this be Spurs' third loss on the bounce? Or do we think Big Ange can fix up? I don't know. Tough one. It's a coin flip. 2-1 to either side, but I'm not really sure where.
But we're seeing goals, and I know that we own Cash, but we think he could get something down that side. But the idea that... have you got Son as well, Ryan?
No Son.
Okay. So you guys want Villa to score 2. I also want Villa to score 2, but I also want Spurs to score 2 because you know, I think Son will be involved either way. So it's going to be close, but yeah, I think this is going to be an entertaining game. I think this is going to be a good game to watch as well. So not just in terms of FPL and all the assets we own, but I think in terms of football, should be a pretty good one. So let's move on to Newcastle and Chelsea. So for Newcastle and Chelsea, we'll kick off again with Lucian's notes. So we will be talking about Chelsea in this one. We've talked a lot about Newcastle for a long time since their fixture swung in like, what, game week 4 or something like that. Or swung, I should say. So we're going to be looking at Chelsea being back in our thoughts, specifically in this game. Lucian is saying Newcastle are in tatters, but they have one redeeming factor: the return of Bruno Guimaraes from suspension, which was the last straw on the camel's back, which broke against Bournemouth. Chelsea right now operate with James playing 60-ish minutes and will rely on Synergy on the right to produce chances. The gang look like they're coming back, and this hypes the return of Sterling, with the fixtures looking good after this one. And again, similar to why we brought in Bryan Mbeumo like a week early, Palmer and the likes of Jackson and maybe even Nkunku and Reece James are in people's vision here because fixtures are going to turn for Chelsea pretty nicely. Lucian will personally transition from a 3-4-3 to a 3-5-2, letting go of Julian Alvarez. He foresees a Watkins-Haaland duo being the norm unless people have a lot of faith in Isak or Jackson in the coming weeks, and Sterling will be his direct replacement to go alongside Mo Salah, Saka and Martinelli, and 2 mid-price midfielders as the new template emerges. So that's his thoughts on Newcastle and Chelsea. My feelings then towards Chelsea, because that's our focus for this one, with their fixtures changing from pretty much next game week. FPL is a game that you shouldn't have grudges with, and I know a lot of us will have grudges. Zaha always felt like he was a popular grudge to have, right? But I think you cut your nose off to spite your face when you do that. If you sort of point blank refuse to own a player again because they've messed you around a few times, I think you're stopping yourself with potential points. And I even said throughout, so I started with Eze, who didn't have a strong start. Stat-wise, watching him play was great. His price dropped, he didn't get the points. Jackson was exactly the same for me. I had Jackson for pretty much the whole fixture run that he had, I think, until he got like suspended or whatever it was. And I'm still feeling positive about potentially returning to him for 6.8 million. He's still posting good attacking numbers, but now he's starting to put the ball in the back of the net. The imminent return of Nkunku back from injury, the arrival of Palmer in that first team as well, and a more cohesive Chelsea in general. I think they look buyable as early as next game week, because they're against a Brighton side who still haven't kept a clean sheet. They've got loads of injuries and they just concede chances and goals all the time. Palmer at 5.2 is great value, but temper those expectations. He scored 4 goals and he is posting promising numbers, especially in creating chances. But keep in mind, similar to what I said before about Mbeumo, but even more so, the penalties, right? And I know it's great to have a player that takes penalties, but you can't rely on a player to score like 4 penalties in 5 games or whatever he's done, right? You can't have that as your as a reliable source of points income. So but he is great value. They do have a great run of fixtures. He looks like he's inside the side. But I'd also be wary about what's going to happen when Nkunku is fit. Because I've always said from pre-season, I said it was going to be Jackson as the 9 and Nkunku as the 10. And that's why I started the season with Jackson before Nkunku even got injured. In my early drafts. So just be wary of how the team's shape and positions might change slightly. Jackson might get dropped for Nkunku, might be a straight swap. So just keep your eye on that issue. But they are completely buyable. There's no reason why, again, holding grudges, why wouldn't you buy Reece James? Yes, he gets injured. It's probably a matter of time. But we know his potential. And with the run of fixtures that Chelsea have got coming up pretty much from next game week, and the prices that they are, 6.8 million for the main striker, 5.2 million for the most creative midfielder, and Reece James, who's been in it for years, or even the other defenders for like 4.5 million. And is Sanchez still around 4.5 million?
4.6.
4.6.
Yep.
There's still great value. Despite it's starting to slowly come together now, but there you go. So my thoughts on Chelsea is, there's absolutely no reason why, if you've already got Bryan Mbeumo and you've already got like Saka and you're still looking at flags and you're not fancying Toyota Villa, I don't think there's any reason why you can't go for like a Palmer a week early like we've done with Mbeumo. Your thoughts on Chelsea, Tien? Are you put off by them? Because you were with me on the Chelsea train you had Sterling for his haul. That was nice.
So I had Sterling. I bought into Sterling just before his haul, so that was a good memory. But then I bought in Jackson after that, which wasn't a very, very pleasant memory at all. I also had Chilwell as well early on in the season. From Game Week 1 actually, so it was mixed fortune there. I personally think it's a wait and watch. So currently I don't have any Chelsea asset. I don't have Palmer like a lot of people. I'm with you. I don't believe in the sustainability of penalties. I mean, of course he's got 4 in the last 5. He could get none in the next 10. Who knows, right? So it's something that it can't be predicted. But of course, if someone need to downgrade, a midfielder to upgrade elsewhere, then 5.2 million Palmer is of course a very good option, and you could essentially buy him at any point in time. Because if it's got a tough fixture that you don't want to play him, you can just bench him, because at 5.2 it's very easy benchable option. I do hold grudges with Reece James. He's on my never buy again list, and Jackson has made that list as well. So I don't think I'll be actively looking to go back. Now, the other thing is, I spent a lot of transfers this season already on defenders. I think I did a quick count, like 50% of my normal transfers, like free transfers, have been on defenders. That's a lot more than normal. So I don't really want to think about buying Reece James and potentially have to sell him once he get injured again. So it's not just about holding grudges, but we know what we're getting into. A player with a long injury history. So for all of those reasons, for me, and the fixtures haven't really gotten better until they won't be getting better until like game week 16. So we could potentially wait a few game weeks to see what happened with especially with the return of Nkunku as well. If he returns, we want to see how the team shape up and who's missing out and all that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, I just personally think that Palmer's going to stay on the wing. Gallagher's probably going to be the one to make way for Nkunku. But we'll just have to see how it goes, really. So again, be wary with when you're bringing in players. If people are returning, and games are going to come thick and fast for the next month, so just be wary on that. Transfers are precious unless you're someone who likes to take hits and risks. Obviously, we always say here, play your own way, right? So do whatever you guys deem fit. Ryan, your thoughts on Chelsea? Are you tempted by them maybe soonish?
I guess if you couldn't afford Mbeumo, then Palmer might seem like the more reasonable pick. Having said that, I still am a bit cautious in terms of where Nkunku actually fits in, because he can play 10, he can play striker, he can also play left wing. If he plays left wing, does that mean that Sterling goes right wing, or I don't know where all of this is going to like mash up into. And Palmer has also been playing really well, so does that mean Palmer moves left wing, or he takes that number 10 spot? So I guess these are like questions we kind of have to wait and see. With regards to Chelsea's defense, I think we can wait, because obviously the fixtures from a defensive point of view might not be as great, and obviously we know Reece James, they've got we're all talking about trying to get players who play 90 minutes. I don't think Reece James is someone who's going to be risked to play 90 minutes. And by the time game week 16 comes, maybe Colwill is fit and can be played instead. So you'll probably be looking somewhere else for Chelsea defense by that time as well. So I think we can wait. The only player I would go for would be Palmer right now if you can't afford him way more.
Yeah, good point.
Otherwise, yeah.
I think game week 16. So again, what we do here, we're not the kind of people who we wait for Chelsea to suddenly play amazing football and they have 2 weeks or even just one game week and James Halls, Jackson Halls, Palmer Halls, and we're like, hey guys, you should buy Reece James and Jackson because they're so good. They get lots of... No, the idea is we sort of plant the seeds now, right? And we look at these teams 2-3 weeks prior to when we are looking to potentially bring them in. And also, I find it more useful to look at them play against teams. So they've got Newcastle, Brighton, and Man United in the next 3, right? Especially from an attacking point of view, they're games where they should get goals against Brighton and United, especially, right? But for me, if I'm really watching Chelsea now closely for those 3 games, when they're going to play Everton, Sheffield, Wolves, Luton, Fulham, and I've watched them in those difficult games, that's going to spur me on more to get them from that point because I've scouted them earlier, right? Rather than just, oh, they've just got 20 points against Brighton. Now I'm going to bring them in. Everyone should buy them. So, yeah. Let's go and just talk about the match itself. So Newcastle, despite a few injuries, are still solid at home. They've got the joint most clean sheets, conceded the fewest amount of big chances, and have the 3rd best expected goals conceded in the league. And delta-wise, they're actually a touch underachieving, just a fraction underachieving. Newcastle are also 5th for expected goals. Chelsea are kind of like their kind of reverse twin. What I mean by that is Chelsea are 5th for expected goals conceded and have the 3rd best XG. So there's both top 5 teams in attack and defence. It's just like Newcastle are 3rd for defence and Chelsea are 5th, and Chelsea are 3rd best for attack and Newcastle are 5th, right? So they're kind of mirroring each other to an extent in their attack and defence, right? So the yin and yang, exactly. So but the top ones are Liverpool and Villa, and then it's Chelsea, which surprised me, but it's expected, right? Expected goals and expected chances, not putting them in the back of the net. And we know that Jackson for a while had that problem as owners. But on paper and in reality, both have some of the best attacking and defensive stats in the whole of the Premier League. So I just predict a tight contest on Tyneside. Probably something like 1-1, a low-scoring affair. Newcastle and Chelsea are mid-table for expected goals conceded from set plays. And I feel like that's where we're going to get something from that and the wing-backs from both teams. That's where I think the breakthrough is going to be, either from the wing, like from a cross, or from a set play. Trippier's been an assist machine, but we're going to have to see what Newcastle do defensively because Hall is ineligible. So that means Livramento is more likely to start. But is Livramento going to be the right side and Trippier the left? Or is Livramento going to be the other side and Trippier is going to be left back, which lowers his attacking potential because he's not going to be swinging it in on his right foot. So just watch out for whichever defender is going to be on the right and left side. As for Chelsea, Reece James is back. We know he's a threat when he is fit. And Cucurella likes to get forward at times as well. So I think it's going to be a tight affair because, like I said, they're both top 5 in terms of attack and defense. Newcastle are solid at home. Even with the injuries, they've still got the key players that are keeping clean sheets and doing well still. They're a little bit tired, but they've had an international break now, so they've had that rest. And yeah, I think it's going to come from set plays or something from the wingers or wing backs, especially the wing backs getting forward like Trippier and Reece James. Specific matchups and predictions, Tien? What are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, not too much to add to what you've just said. I agree that it's going to be a tight game. I was going to predict 1-1, but then when I saw you predict 1-1, I'm not going to go there. So I think it's going to be either a 0-0 or 1-0 either side. It's going to be a very, very tight game.
You're not going to put your chips on the side, though? 1-0 to...
I'm leaning 1-0 to Newcastle. Just because I got Trippier. I don't have any Chelsea.
I got double Newcastle defense playing, so that'll be great. We'll just chalk that on. Cheers, bud. Yep.
Okay.
Ryan,
we'll celebrate together next week.
Yeah, well, I'll have more points for a change for the last few game weeks. Ryan, what are you thinking about this game?
Tight game. Newcastle, our team, when they play big teams, they're very pragmatic in how they approach the games. Like we saw the Arsenal game we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. We go back, we said the same thing. Very pragmatic. We won't be surprised if it ended up like a 0-0 or something. So in this game, I'm going to go 1-0 to Newcastle. Just to grind it out, somehow find a way. And if Gordon can get a goal, now that hopefully he might be on the left side because Isak is potentially back. So I'll take that as well alongside a Trippier clean sheet. And maybe a Trippier assist to Gordon, the cross.
Trippier assist, Lascelles goal. Look, I'm not asking for a lot. Just like a goal from Lascelles, like he gets like a goal every 4 years. But look, if it's gonna happen, please let it be this week. It just feels, apart from that Liverpool game week 3 game when they lost 2-1 at home to 10 men, they're solid, right? They're especially at home. 1-0 against Arsenal, 4-0 against Palace, 2-0 against Burnley, 1-0 against Brentford. Just get the clean sheets at home. They're so good at home. And you say they're so sensible. Like simple, what is it? KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Right? They just keep it simple at the back and they're just like a brick wall. And everyone thought, no Botman. Oh my God, Lascelles coming in. This is a nightmare. Comes in, keeps clean sheets. Burn out. Hall comes in, does well as well. It's just, I think they're just excellent. Whatever they're doing up there. Please keep a clean sheet this week. That'd be lovely. So let's move on to the final part, and it is captaincy. So I think for captaincy, Haaland is going to be back pretty much in a lot of people's main choice. A lot of people gutted, myself included, because Bowen was the alternative choice away to Burnley. Liverpool against City is, even though it's at City and you can always back Haaland, it was nice to have a good, solid choice with Bowen being one of the top 5 attacking players in FPL away to Burnley, who are horrific at the moment with a high line. I said earlier about if Villa were at home, Watkins and Diaby, but even though they're not, I still think they're in the conversation, and Son is in the conversation for the same reasons we've discussed prior in this video today. Salah can always be in for a shout as well, but if we're being serious, I just think with Bowen out now and issues around everywhere else, I think I'm just going to be back on Haaland. He's going to have the EO again, and with the injuries and stuff I've got elsewhere, I don't feel like it's a punty game week. Like Villa and Spurs, it's going to be close. I think there's going to be goals. But I could also feel like Spurs are going to show up and we're going to get that horrible Villa away team that gets beat like 2-3-0. But I can equally see Villa turning their away form around and bringing the home form and smashing Spurs 3-0 because Spurs can't create without Maddison. There's too many variables, I think, in that game that can happen. Liverpool and Salah can back at any time, but I think he's been quiet and I think he's been pretty lucky to get the points he's had for the last few game weeks. City at home are an unstoppable machine and they're a monster, but they're against Liverpool. That's the only negative. And the fact that Haaland, we need to make sure he's fit. But in terms of other captaincy options, Villa and Spurs are too much in the air. Bowen's injured, so I'm not going to go to West Ham. Where else do I go without it being just a punt for the sake of a punt? Like, Bowen has shown that he is a player that you could perhaps trust. Even the likes of Watkins, I know he let you down, TM, with his missed chances, but you could be thinking, I know that'll put you off because, you know, he missed those chances and all the other choices hauled or got good points for that week, especially Salah and Haaland. But it just would feel it would be a punt for the sake of it. So at home, you can captain Haaland to anyone. And Liverpool are just not defensively. And now, if this wasn't Liverpool, if this was Newcastle, I might have thought about it a little bit more, because I just still don't feel that Liverpool's defence is 100% there. And even with Andy Robertson still out there, and if Tsimikas is going to play, I think Gomez is going to be there, but he's still not a great left back / left-sided centre-back if Trent moves forward in that inverted wing-back role. So for me, I said it earlier, keep it simple, stupid. If I'm not really if I'm not really like, oh, I do want to captain him this week, like when I captained Son against Luton, for example, I was like, yeah, I'm captaining him against that. I don't have that feeling for anyone, and if I don't have that feeling, I'm going Haaland. Tien, captaincy thoughts?
So you're currently on Haaland, just, you know, for the same reason that you just said. I just don't see any other viable options. Yeah, Bowen was a strong shout, but with the injury down, then it's hard to say. I think I'm just reading out Lucien as well. You know, his armband is firmly on Haaland as well, unless there's confirmed news that Haaland is out. And he said it's a brain-dead decision each week on captaincy, being focused attention on the rest of the squad. So that's fair, and I think that's sensible. Now, City Liverpool is the early kickoff, so we may have early team news. And if Haaland is starting, then he's obviously in the obvious captaincy choice. Now, for me, Solanke is an outside option, just because the lack of other alternatives. So he's playing Sheffield United, which we know being the worst defense in the league right now in terms of both expected goal conceded and actual goal. No, actually, they're second worst for actual goals conceded, but they worst for XG conceded and big chance conceded in the league right now. So now the other thing that, depending on how you want to view it, is that, you know, Sheffield United can play a low block sort of parking the bus kind of setup against big teams, but they might see Bournemouth as a winnable game, right? Because where else can they win, right? So Bournemouth is one of the, so Bournemouth could be one of the teams that say, hey, let's go for it, let's go for the win, which means that they could open up at the back. That could be beneficial to Solanke as well. So he's an outside captaincy punt option if anyone is not going for the boring, obvious Haaland captaincy.
Yeah,
I'm not discounting the fact that I might go there.
Well, honestly,
if I got him.
If Bowen's out for just like 1 week and I do go Pedro to Solanke and play 3-4-3, I would partially think about it to sort of pay off the hit and double down. If I'm going to take a hit for Solanke, I need to have a certain level of belief in him. So if I'm going to take a hit for him, I might as well double down and captain him and just go all or nothing kind of thing. But this is the same point. I think it was you made, Tien, or it was Lucien, about when we didn't captain Haaland, and it was like, look, I think Haaland's going to score. And the key is, do I think anyone's going to score more than 1 goal this week to make it worth it? To make it worth the risk? Because Haaland's going to be, I don't know, 190% effective ownership again? And Solanke, on paper, is a great choice. He's got Sheffield United. But, one, it's away. It's at Sheffield. And I know what you mean, that they'll come out of that low block and maybe try a bit more attacking. But in terms of their own goal threat, Bournemouth are like a bottom 5 side for attack. Like they're 5th worst for big chances created. They're 5th fewest amount of goals scored in the Premier League. They've only scored 1 goal more than Sheffield United. So for me, captaincy is such a big decision that it can always be the defining decision in a week. It can be the thing that saves you or destroys you. You can, like, Salah and Haaland, when they scored, what was it, 2 goals each last game week or whatever it was? What was it? Like 16 pointers, both of them. If you had only Salah and not Haaland, but you didn't captain Salah, you're way off. You're 20, 30 points back. Your whole team can do really well, but if Haaland decides it's a week where he's going to get a hat-trick, the rest of your team doesn't matter if you didn't captain him. If you captain Solanke and he blanks and the rest of your team do a pretty good job, better than average, but Haaland goes and gets another 16 points and 195% of the game have captained him, it's all for nothing. So you need to ask yourself, do you think Solanke is going to genuinely get more points than Haaland at home? And if you think that is true, then that's your choice for captaincy. He is an option, but Bournemouth haven't shown me anything. The fact that they've scored 1 more goal than Sheffield United and they're away, I'm not trusting. I trust Solanke as a transfer. I don't trust him as a captain. Because you got to trust your captain, I think. I don't have it. He hasn't got my trust. Ryan, your thoughts on captaincy?
So I would have loved Bowen as an option because I think he scored in every away game this season. So it would have been a really good option to have. Now he might still be an option if Moyes comes and says he's fit, he's fine, he'll be playing. But for the moment, this is like part of my whole resetting and taking a break away from FPL and everything. I was like, I'm just going to keep it simple. Haaland is the biggest threat at my rank, regardless of any other player. And I'm just going to I'll just put the armband on him so that I don't have to look at 10 players playing for me and 1 against me, even if he's in my team. I'm just going to be like, yeah, keep it simple and steady my rank for the moment. And then I'll look at this thing like a bit more punts in other weeks. Now, if Haaland is also out, then I might just go to Salah. If there's no Bowen, no Haaland, I'll just put it on Salah.
It's trust.
I don't have any other options. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think coming back sort of full circle to Lucian's point of focus on the rest of your squad, because there's been a few key injuries, I think that you can just... I know it's boring to captain Haaland. I know it's not flashy or exciting, but this is a week where we're going to have another splitting of teams and templates because some people didn't have Mitoma at all and they're not bothered by it. But people who did have Mitoma, which was 20% of people, a lot of them are transferring off Mitoma. Bowen is at 29.6%, so almost 30%. And these will be engaged managers with Bowen. Because I can't remember what his ownership was right at the start of the season, but it wasn't those 30% of managers, that is from the last like 5-6 game weeks, from engaged managers, right? The likes of Mitoma or Estepinian, dead teams have those players. But not many dead teams would have a Bowen, because I don't think many people would have started with a Bowen in their side, right? So that's 30%. A lot of those will be active players. Where everyone's going, are they going Mbeumo? A lot of them already have Mbeumo, so where are they going to go? We're going to start to see a splitting of teams, and maybe even a splitting of formation, so like a 3-4-3. This isn't a week where I feel a captaincy punt is needed. With all the injuries and now the fact that your team by itself, with a safety pick of Captain Haaland, you might find a goodish game week recently has been Red Arrows, where I am in like 200k or 300, I don't even know where I am. 250k, right, is my rank. And a good game week has been nothing for me. But this now might be a week where 7 out of my 11 players get something. I might get a big green arrow because teams are starting to diverge into other avenues. But I think the key is, are we all Haaland captain right now?
Yeah, it's on my... Yeah. Currently on
Just for
Haaland,
now.
yes.
But I think Ken, I forgot, and I knew the game was first, but I forgot about the early team news. That's going to be key, because I think that's going to make people's minds up as well. But like, oh, do I risk it? Like, even if Bowen's 50-50 or so, or touch and go, right? Oh, am I going to risk it on him? Am I going to risk it on this guy? Like, if you get the league news, Haaland starts, click captain, see you later, guys, I'm out. Have a good one, right? Just because it's safety. And I know it's the whole Gandhi first kickoff rule, but it doesn't matter because so many people will captain Salah or Haaland that anyone who doesn't, fine, catch up to me then. You deserve it because you were brave enough to risk it on a Solanke or something like that, right? And I'd love it. And I know it sounds weird to say that because those people would be higher up than me. But I love it when people do stuff like that. You know, oh, I didn't captain Haaland, I captained Solanke and for his 20-point haul or something. Like, good for you. You had the guts and the gall to do what I didn't, and you've been rewarded. Equally, if it messes up for you, I'll be one of the first ones to say, yeah, I told you so. You shouldn't have done it. So it works two ways. Any more parting comments before we leave today's video?
I would just say that I would love early team need to say Haaland doesn't start.
I would love it.
I would. It's gonna create chaos, and that's what I'm there for.
Love it. Chaos is a ladder. To quote Game of Thrones, but
anyway,
would be great.
It would be great. It would open up so many things.
People would still Haaland.
Yeah.
Wait and see.
They'd sell him, they'd panic, they'd bench him, they'd still play him. Some would still even that's my Christmas wish.
That would be great. But I think just a final point, like this game week, there's a lot of teams gonna struggle. Not only just the flags, but players playing each other in tough fixtures. So it'll be a low scoring game week on paper. So in that regard, I think you're spot on in terms of like, don't try to do punty thing to chase upside, just survival mode. I think this game week is going to be, field as many players as possible, sort out your problems and be sensible and, just survive the game week. And then we go again next week.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, try not to take too many hits before team news because you'll kick yourself if you sell a Bowen or a Cash or a Haaland or something without knowing they're out. And if they're out for 1 week and you have to play a bad bench player, like I'm actively playing Archer because he's at home to Bournemouth, but if you have to play an Archer, is that worth a -4 for 1 game week where Bowen might be back? Just have a think through. Final comment then, I'll just say, please let us know in the comments below what you're feeling about videos versus live streams. The content's pretty similar, but let us know your thoughts and feelings about the content as well, what you like and what you don't like, because we do take it on and we try and adjust and cater and improve all the time, which is what we do. What you like and what you don't like. We're strong people. We can take criticism. If there's something a lot of people like or don't like, we're happy to cut it out and edit and focus on more things that you are interested in. So yeah, that would be fantastic. So any comments as well as likes and subscribes and things would be absolutely fantastic. So thanks for joining us today, and as always, have a good one.